Okay? If you don't make this change, then the DHCP server will not give you an IP address. So that's a problem. Okay?
That's configured specifically for this classroom environment.
For this classroom. Why they made these restrictions, I'm not sure. I think it's because they didn't want people just to come in with a laptop, plug it in, and have access to the classroom environment and some of the content. I think that's what it is. Yeah. All right, ready to move on? We're good? So again, click apply here, and none of these other pieces need to be adjusted, so the rest should be good enough. So we can hit begin installation here. Once it pixie boots, we're gonna see the Anaconda screen. So this is what you should be seeing at this point. As you can see right now, this test this media is the one that's highlighted. We're gonna skip that and just go up to the installation section, and we'll click enter here because we're not gonna do the kickstart this time. We'll click through the Anaconda piece just once. Later on, you can use the kickstart if you want to. Okay, to resize your VMs, I recommend that you use this view menu option and resize to VM. That's a good trick to resize it. My screen resolution is too small, so what I need to do is scaling the display always so that the entire VM fits into my window here. Yeah, for you, it's probably resize to VM will be sufficient because you have enough of a resolution.
I don't have that option. Oh, okay, never mind. I have.
It's under view.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go with the standard language options here. So just click continue, and then we'll have to populate the Anaconda pieces. Again, this is the hub and spokes model that they introduced in rhel 7. We're going to have to fill in each of the sections before we can move on. So let's start with the partitioning piece, and we're going to have to follow what's in the exercise here. So this is under point 112. We're going to have to use an LVM scheme basically. So what you want to click here is I will configure partitioning. Right, so we're not going to go with the automatic piece because that will teach you nothing. Right, we're going to have to do it manually, and then click done in the upper left hand corner. Okay, we will stay with the LVM scheme this time, so we're not changing that. We can basically start clicking away here, adding actual volumes, partitions, and logical volumes. First one would be the boot partition, so let's click /boot as the mount point, and the exercise tells us that this is going to be 500 megs, so 500 M for the desired capacity, and then add mount point. The exercise also tells us that it should be an ext3 file system. Okay. To change the file system type, you want to go and run a change here from XFS to ext3. Okay. Once you make a change in any of these fields, the update settings is important to hit that. Okay. Your boot partition will be just a standard partition, right? Grub didn't support LVMs in the past. It does support it now, but in rhel 7, we don't support it. So That's why we keep this as a standard partition. Okay? Then we can hit the plus sign again to create our next volume. We're going to need a swap partition of 2 gigs and then a root partition of 8 gigs. So let's go ahead and start with the swap partition here. So I'm going to choose swap here. It's not really a mount point, but we'll go with that. And this is 2 gigs, so 2G for the desired capacity. And notice that since we are following the LVM scheme, the tool is smart enough to come up with some kind of a volume group name right here. And also the LV name. So right now the logical volume is called swap. The volume group is rhel_VM 0-15. But are these names acceptable to us? According to the exercise, we're going to have to change these, right? The volume group should be called VG1. Okay? So let's go ahead and click modify here with the volume group. And instead of going with this rhel volume group name, let's do VG1 here. Okay, so that will be the volume group name. The other thing we need to do is take care of the sizing as well. The volume group here will have to be 12 gigabytes according to the exercise. So for the sizing policy, instead of going with automatic, which would keep the volume group as small as possible, we're going to have a fixed size for the volume group. So instead of the 2 gigs, we're going to go with 12 here. Okay? So far so good? So this will create us a volume group called VG1, 12 gigs in size. Okay? Update settings here on this screen. Okay? Swap will still be only 2 gigs. Okay? But now you should see here in the volume group section that you have 10 gigs free. Okay? So we've got a volume group of 12 gigs, 2's used for swap, and we still have space for the root volume, which is what we're gonna do next. But before we do that, the logical volume name needs to be called LV_swap. So this is where you change this. LV_swap, and then update settings. Okay, so now you can see VG1-LV_swap, 2 gigs in size in a 12 gig volume. Okay, why do I go through all of this? It's because you guys now know LVM, right? When we initially ran through this, volume groups haven't been covered in the content yet. So I wanted to revisit this so you actually see how to do a bit more advanced LVM management here in Anaconda. Okay? Cool. So we can hit plus now again to add the root volume. The mount point will be slash. This is the root volume. The desired capacity will be 8 gigs. So 8G for this one, adding the mount point. Okay? Again, Anaconda is smart enough to know that this is going to be part of the same volume group. So you can see that, again, VG1-root was created as a logical volume. Again, we'll have to rename the logical volume to LV_root. So again, LV_root for the name and update the settings. Okay? The file system type is gonna be XFS, so it stays on default here, and that's it. Okay? At the end of the day, we'll have 2 gigabytes free in this volume group, in the 12 gig volume group, right? That's our pool. We have 2 gigs free because 8 plus 2 equals 10. We've got 2 gigs left. All right, so that's our partitioning. The remaining space should be unallocated according to the exercise. So we can hit done here because we're done. You've got to accept all the changes. And at this point, the partitioning should nicely gray out, indicating that you can move to the next step. So far so good, any problems? No? I hope you will interrupt me if you run into any problems, because later on some of these things will be harder to fix than now. Next, let's do the installation tree. The URL is given in the exercise here. HTTP is already selected there, so all we gotta type here is classroom.example.com/content/rhel7.0/x86_64 DVD. Okay? The trailing slash in the URL is optional. Okay? Okay, then you can click done here in the upper left hand corner, and if you gave it a valid URL, it would have downloaded all the metadata, and then this option will be grayed out as well. You've done the job. And finally, all we gotta do is select software selection. These will be essentially environment groups or individual young groups that you get to choose. The exercise tells us to use the infrastructure server base environment with no add-ons selected. So that simply means clicking on infrastructure server. This will give you a command line only server that should be quite quick to install, and then later on we'll install the GUI as a separate step as well. Okay, but for now we're good. Click done in the upper left hand corner again. Matt, is that a question?
Did we just check the infrastructure server and the same?
We checked that one, and we checked 5 of these over here at random. I'm just messing up. Don't do that.
Oh, you said 5.
I was just being funny, just
And then we'll begin installation here, which should kick off the installation slowly. We get a chance to create the users while the installation is already running. The exercise tells us that we should set the root password to Red Hat, and no additional users should be created at this point, right? We're going to create a separate user later on when we install the known graphical environment. So let's click on the root password there and just set Red Hat. This is a weak password, obviously, but and therefore we're going to have to hit done twice. Okay, but eventually it accepts it anyway. Okay, that's it for the installation. Basically, we're going to have to verify it once it's done, but it will take a few minutes. So feel free to take a coffee break if you want to. Once this is done, we'll shut it off and we'll take a snapshot of the VM.